Hello, everyone. Welcome live to 3YTV, tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here on 3YTV for tonight's running of the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby here at Bristol Motor Speedway. We are on dirt for the first time in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series ever. And it's going to be a fun one here on the channel here tonight. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth, as always, here on these Friday nights is Mr. Drew Eisenman. And Drew, great to be out here at Bristol. We're going to be slinging some mud here tonight. Haven't seen it. I'm really curious to know what these drivers are going to have out there on the racetrack for them.
Yeah, I'm not one to run stock cars on dirt too much. I have run these trucks before, and they're a handful. They're really heavy. They just slide around. I know that kind of when iRacing started implementing the dirt stuff for at least the Cup cars this year, it was almost too easy to drive. These are not. These trucks slide around a ton, a lot of off-throttle time, a lot of time just trying not to spin the thing out going into the corner. It's going to be a handful for these guys, and I think there's going to be a lot of action. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
And of course, the other thing that comes into play is the racetrack is going to change throughout the night here tonight. You can see that black stripe in turn number 3 and 4 up there. You'll get a little bit better look at it right here. See how the racetrack on the left-hand side, you get some dirt buildup on the high side of the racetrack. They call that the cushion because sometimes you can run up on that cushion. You kind of ride against it. You can find some grip up there. But then down below it, you have what looks to be smooth racetrack. It's a little bit darker. There's not a lot of grip down there, Drew, but at the same time, you can really get a lot of momentum. You can get your truck slideways. Yes, we're going to be saying slideways here tonight. And then down at the bottom, you got some fresh dirt, which sometimes the fresh dirt can give you some grip. It really depends on your setup, how the track's driving, how much weight transfer you have in your truck, and how well you can get the power down, Drew. That's something that these drivers are going to have to struggle with tonight. So much horsepower, so much weight with these National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast trucks.
And it's a constant search. I think, on the oval side, and especially on the road side, you figure out the track and you just make sure you hit your marks. That's really not going to be the case tonight. You're just going to have to search around and try to find where that grip's at, because if one guy figures something out that nobody else does, he's going to have a huge advantage, but that can also cost you a ton of time, right? If you try something and it doesn't work and you lose a half a second at Bristol is probably going to be a spot or two at the very least. So like you saw in this shot right here, that dark part up top, you mentioned the cushion. Sometimes there's grip even if you go above the cushion because that dirt isn't compacted down. As you mentioned, the bottom can have grip as well. Basically, you're either going to try to run what the other guys are running to be fast, or you're going to be one of those guys that's trying to find something new to have an advantage over the other guys out there.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be a fun one here tonight. Before we kind of get over into the race standings, we do want to highlight here tonight the point standings entering tonight, and it is Chris Darling with 1 win to his name, Drew, atop the board here in the point standings. 32 points over Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion here, as we see some cars back out there on the racetrack to turn some last-minute practice laps, but a really good job by Darling to be really consistent here in the opening 4 races.
Yeah, and last weekend went about as well as Chris Darling could have wanted, obviously, with the win, and then Ben Izinga having some trouble. That really gives Chris a big points cushion, and as he talked about in his interview, it's not that it means a ton as far as big picture is concerned, but it just takes less pressure off you, quite frankly. You're not worried about just, okay, I can't take risks, I can't make mistakes because I'm in a precarious point situation. Chris can go out there and have fun as, man, these guys are flipping down the backstretch at Bristol, something you don't see every day. But folks, that's going to be common here, I think, tonight. Luckily, the league has implemented some systems that I think are going to keep the caution suppressed a little bit. And it's going to allow these guys to maybe have an individual spin and not have to reset the whole field. So, Peter, even more punishing in a sense that if you have a self-spin, you're not guaranteed to get a caution to kind of reset yourself.
Yeah, that is very true, and I know a lot of these drivers, they want to get some green flag laps in, but they have to be very, very cautious. There you see the 07 of Ben Izenga. I think he's going to be one of the players here tonight. You can see him up there in the top 5 in the practice session here. He just jumped the cushion. Now, I mentioned that cushion that you can sometimes find some grip up there, but if you go over the cushion, if you get up into that loose dirt that's right up there by the wall, it can very much work against you, Drew, and you can just get up there, lose all grip, and your truck really starts to push. You just get no rotation out the back end of it. And I'm sure we're going to see that here tonight. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of sparks flying, as you saw some there off the Milwaukee Brewers, number 60. That's Matt Vanderkoy right in front of his S2R teammate. We're watching him right here, Ben Izenga. But Andrew Himmelman, fastest lap in the current practice session. But one thing I'm noticing, Drew, is that these lap times, as they're coming in, are quite a bit slower than those faster lap times, just because the track is degraded here over this just about 15-minute practice session. We're only about 15 minutes into this particular session here, and already the track has changed quite a bit.
It's interesting how dirt tracks evolve. I've noticed a lot of the time when it feels like you have less grip, it's actually because there's so much grip that you're going significantly faster. So I'm interested to see, do these times pick up? Do they slow down? Because as you get rubber, like you see that huge dark streak of dirt right there, that is rubber that is literally being laid down by the tires. And that actually gives you more grip, but it makes the truck slide more because you're carrying more speed a lot of the time. So these times, it's going to be an interesting development, because as you push this thing harder and harder, the truck's going to slide more and it's going to be harder to drive.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. 2 minutes left here. Now tonight, folks, the race is going to be a little bit different. We are still going to have the pole shootout brought to you, of course, by our friends over at Craig's Setup Shop. We are going to give away a Craig's Setup Shop pole award. We're still going to have the Buttkicker Challenge in effect here tonight, but we're going to have heat races, Drew. And the heat races will line up the drivers for the main by the way that they make their way in from these heat races. We're also going to have a last chance qualifier, because we're not going to have a full 40 cars out there like we typically have. In fact, currently we have 32 cars, 32 trucks, I should say, here tonight. So we're not going to see all 32 of those trucks in the actual main event here on 3Wide TV here tonight. It's only going to be about 25. So it's going to be a little bit different than what we're used to here, but that's because we're not used to racing on dirt here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But I'm really looking forward to not only the feature race, Drew, but also the 2 heat races and that last chance qualifier, the consolation to try and get into the main event tonight.
Yeah, it's one of the awesome, unique things about dirt is the heat style racing that they do. I mean, obviously, like Rallycross does something similar as well, but I think it really, as far as I understand, originates in this dirt stuff. A lot of the times, dirt cars don't have big fuel tanks, and so they can only run so many laps before they run out of gas, essentially. With these trucks, they can run a lot of laps here. But it's really fun. It just feels like you get more racing, right? And there's more chances to get up there and kind of reset yourself, and also bigger stakes on the line. If you have a big mistake in your first heat, all of a sudden you're in that last chance qualifier, and that's a lot of pressure, but it's going to be really fun to see how this all unfolds.
That it will. Got about 23 seconds left here in the practice session before we move over into the Craig Setup Shop pole shootout. Want to head over to the chat real fast. Stay tuned. Sports in the chat saying, what's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well. Peter John Serto rooting on Peter Serto. And I think Peter Serto could be a little bit of a sleeper here tonight. Was watching him a little bit earlier in practice, and he actually looked pretty darn good. So keep an eye on the number 32 Jansen Racing Engines machine here tonight. Tina Himmelman also in the chat here tonight, letting us know that Ben Adams seems to be doing well. Ben not out there on the racetrack here tonight. As the 6 of Doug Miller goes for a little bit of spin, and that's going to do it here for our practice session. We're going to move over into that Craig Setup Shop pole shootout and figure out who's going to pick up the Craig Setup Shop pole award here tonight. Before we go into those heat races, but Drew, great to hear Ben Adams is doing well. And I wanted to mention Doug Neal, Drew. He also is, I think, one of those sleepers here tonight. I'm looking for a good night out of that Simbox Chevy Silverado, but like everyone else, he's going to have to avoid the accidents here tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be a big factor, but I think this is having dirt experience isn't necessarily going to be as beneficial as if we were running a sprint car or a late model or a modified, because these are just totally different. We see that at road courses, right? Guys that are road specialists, yeah, they tend to do better than the average, but it's not a guaranteed amount of success that you're going to have, just because there is so much that can occur for these guys. You mentioned it. A guy in front of you just, if you're the leader and you're leading, a lap car in front of you might lose it. You get into him, all of a sudden your race completely changes. And so, like in real life, right? We saw Daniel Suarez kind of come out of nowhere. I would have never predicted that he would have a shot to win the dirt Bristol race in real life, but that was the case. And like you mentioned, as we're seeing these times come in, those guys that you talked about, Andrew Himmelman, Doug Neal, Mitchell Adams, who's always up there, Jason Gracias, a lot of those names that we're used to seeing are up there, but that's not a guarantee that that's where they're going to end at their heats at the very least, let alone the end of the night.
Yeah, so just about 3 minutes left. Most of the field has already gone out there, Drew, and turned their lap time in. One of those drivers I'm watching right here, that's Matt Cherry, and he's in the wall. And Drew, you and I know that you got into the wall in your qualifying lap. iRacing will take away your time, and that's what's happened to the number 38 truck. So it looks like he's going to be starting near the tail end of the field. And I wasn't expecting that because Matt Cherry, I expected to be one of the faster trucks out there here tonight. Again, he's having problems getting that truck rotated in the corner. Here's Justin White. He's put his 2 lap times in, so he's done in the number 2 machine. He's currently 25th on the board. Travis White, however, he just turned in his first lap. He's going to jump up to 18th position on the board in the number 23 Simbox Chevrolet. We'll see what he can do on lap number 2, see if he can pick it up. Nathan Maurer, his teammate in the Simbox Motorsports machine, he actually just went up to 19th position on the board. Lap number 2 for Travis White moves him up to 9th. So big pickup for the Simbox Chevrolet on lap number 2. Good job for him. And unfortunately, his teammate, the 971 Nathan Maurer, they're going for a little bit of a spin. Let's keep our eyes on Kyle Lewis now. He enters the racetrack, coming up out onto the racing surface, out of turn number 2 onto the backstretch, Drew. He has yet to put in a qualifying lap time. You see that truck here with the racetrack so fresh, Drew, looks like he just cannot get that truck rotated, and that's what I've been seeing out of quite a few of these trucks.
Yeah, that will change very quickly in the race, though. I think, honestly, these guys should probably enjoy the grip while it exists because, I mean, at the very least, at the end of the first heat after 20 laps, it's going to be a very different racetrack, and then going forward from there. So, yeah, it's going to be tight with this fresh dirt and not a lot of rubber laid down, but it will get looser. I promise these guys, if that's what they're struggling with right now. Sometimes you got to do a little Scandinavian flick going into the corners when you have this much grip on the dirt, just to try to get that thing rotated, as you mentioned. But kind of the guys up front, not surprising to see that number 5 truck, not with Ben Adams in it this week, up at the top of the charts. Andrew Himmelman, quick in practice, quick in qualifying. Doug Neal, you mentioned him, Peter. He's up there as well. And then basically the guys that we typically expect are towards the front end of this pack. So this is going to be a wild card event, but I think those guys have put themselves in a pretty good position when we're getting to these heat races here in just about 40 seconds or so.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be interesting to see how that sorts out. Now, one thing I am looking at, and I am trying to sort out here, Drew, is just how the Buttkicker challenge is going to work here tonight. Because, of course, qualifying is pretty easy right here. And it does look like John Canizaro will be picking up the pole award brought to you by Craig's Setup Shop, and making kind of a one-off appearance here tonight on the dirt. Ben Adams is out. John Canizaro in the number 5 machine. That car is locked in by the charter system that they have here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But here we are into the first of our heat races, and it will be John Canizaro who will lead us to the grid here in heat number 1. You can see that line up there on the left-hand side of your screen. Now, I do not believe... Well, let's see if we can bring it up. I don't believe the graphic works here, folks, but, you know, we might as well try. Well, look at that. It does work. On the pole for heat number 1. Man, sometimes these graphics can sometimes surprise you. On the pole for heat number 1, John Cannizzaro picked up the pole award. Of course, brought to you by Craig's Setup Shop. Doug Neal alongside him. Jason Gracias, Philip Scott on row number 2. Travis White, Colin Ullery, row number 3 for heat number 1. Jeff Price, Peter Serto, 7th and 8th. Brian Bradley and Nathan Maurer rounding out your top 10 here in heat number 1, Drew.
Yeah, and I believe that is Jamar Dumas in the 28 truck, starting P11 with Stan Houseman to his outside. Paul Bilson will be starting in 13th, Justin White in 14th, James Lorello in 15th. Not a great qualifying effort for James Lorello. Matt Cherry, as you mentioned, with his struggles in 16th. And Garrett Gleason did not set a qualifying time, and that is your field for Heat 1. And Peter, could you remind me, as I'm sure the viewers are wondering, how many trucks get through this heat into the feature?
Well, you know what? I was trying to do a little bit of research on that myself just to make sure I wasn't going to tell any lies to anyone here, but they will have, I believe, here tonight, 10 drivers in this heat will be making it into the A main or the main race, the feature. 10 drivers from Heat 2 will advance, and then they are going to advance 5 from the last chance qualifier. So 25 trucks will see the green flag for the feature race here tonight, but we are green flag for heat number 1 here tonight, and it is John Cannizzaro and the number 77 machine of Doug Neal side by side, already banging off the wall in that number 77 machine. Drew, we talked about the Darlington stripe, but here tonight I think we're going to have the Bristol dirt stripe as Cannizzaro pulls away for right now, but look at that back behind him, the 99 of Philip Scott all over the back bumper of the 77 of Doug Neal.
Yeah, I thought Doug was going to get him there in turn 1. He just sent her on in the corner, got up into the wall, and then Cannizzaro was able to pull away from there. But some great battling here right inside the top 5. The number 62 of Colin Ullery in that SimShots truck is really coming on strong, whipping that thing around the bottom, trying to get by that number 1 of Jason Gracias. A little bit of contact out of the corner, and that is the number 2, and I believe Matt Cherry as well. Who else is involved in that, Pete?
Paul Bilson in the number 51 machine is smoking, and Matt Cherry now into the inside wall. Sorry, looks like Cherry has taken a tow back to pit road. Now, manual cautions here tonight, folks, so we did not have iRacing bring out a yellow on that one, so Cannizzaro here leads. You see the 51 of Bilson laying down some smoke. The number 5 has gotten quite a big lead. We go back and kind of watch this battle. Ullery right there in the 62, Travis White, and now a caution flag has come out. We believe that must have been for the accident. A little bit of a delay on that one. Not necessarily seeing a whole lot of action that might have happened to bring out the yellow beyond what we saw a lap or 2 ago. So maybe the admin's finally throwing a yellow, so we'll have to re-rack them. Now, caution laps do count here tonight, Drew. Of course, some short tracks here in the United States, you don't get caution laps being counted on short tracks, but here in this particular series, we will see the caution flags count. It looks like Lorello and Nathan Maurer might be doing a little bit of extracurriculars there at the top of the screen.
Tempers can absolutely come to a boiling point here at these types of tracks. And does that 9 have some substantial front end damage? He does. So just looking at James Lorello's lap times, lap 5, he was 5 seconds off the pace. I believe that was before the caution was thrown. So something happened to James Lorello. I saw some radio chatter that he was involved in, but didn't quite see exactly what happened. Ooh, the number 39 gets into the number, and the 51 get into each other, and then the 38 and 28 just have nowhere to go. That's one thing, Peter, is you have no brakes at all on dirt. Like, there's nothing you can do. Those guys, I promise you, were slamming their brakes to the floor and just nothing happened because you immediately lock up your tires, and unfortunately the 2 and several other trucks got involved in that as well. Now looking focused on James Lorello, because this is, I believe, the lap in which he had a ton of problems, but I didn't see anything there. But quite a few. Oh, there we go, between Certo and James Lorello. And then what happened to give him the front end damage? Because he still didn't have it there. That must have been when the field was coming together. Because, Peter, as I mentioned, there's no brakes on these things, essentially.
Yeah, I think that was about when the yellow flag was thrown. We continue to pace behind the iRacing pace truck. We'll see if the pace truck lights get turned off this time. And no, those pace lights continue to stay on. So a little bit of a long caution flag here on 3 Wide TV. Heat number 1 of the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby. Big shout out to Calamity and Coffee for coming on board and sponsoring the Dirt Derby here on 3 Wide TV. And there's a look at the current track conditions as the pace truck rolls its way through. I'm sure some of these drivers just hoping to get back to green flag here very shortly, Drew, and just not quite yet. We'll see if those lights there on the right hand side of your screen turn off, and hopefully they do when that pace truck goes across the line, and sure enough they do. So we are going to go back green on lap number 10 here. 11 laps still left in the first heat. Doug Neal in the 77 machine, what can he do with John Cannizzaro in the number 5? Because Neal has been pretty quick here, Drew, but Cannizzaro definitely was able to scoot away. But I'm wondering if Cannizzaro can continue that pace when the racetrack changes.
Yeah, I mean, he's had quite a bit of pace all night long, so not terribly surprising to see that 5 truck running up there. But it's going to be interesting to see, does he get held up by lap traffic? Is there an incident in front of him? Just because you have speed doesn't guarantee much. A really good restart, though, from that number 5 is... so the lane change rule is relaxed tonight, but that was a very much intentional lane change by that number 5. It'll be interesting to see how the officials view that, as Doug Neal's being challenged by the number 99 of Philip Scott, as they are going 3 wide for a second behind him with Jason Gracias sandwiched in the middle. They were actually going 3 wide right before that caution for a little while there, Peter, doing a really good job. I believe it was Colin Ullery, the number 23 truck, and Jason Gracias in the number 1 going 3 wide for quite a few laps and doing a really good job of it. As Doug Neal gets way down on the apron. That is not what you want to do here. You really need to lean into that banking, and that is going to cost Doug several positions, as now that number 99 truck is up to P2, and it's just one moment, and all of a sudden Doug Neal lost about 5 positions.
Yeah, that number 77 machine going to have to find a little bit of pace here side by side with Jeff Price. And you know, Drew, when you're on dirt and you don't have a lot of grip, it's very difficult to pull off a pass. You kind of have to do the slide job if you can. It looks like Doug Neal was able to make that pass stick. Meanwhile, back behind them, Brian Bradley and the number 23 machine doing battle. I've always found on dirt it's easier to make the pass around the outside, especially on a racetrack like Bristol with a little bit of variable bankings. You see Bradley trying to straddle that cushion. It's, the one machine, Jason Gracias, has gone around, and the MaxGrafix number 1 machine is going to lose a ton of positions. He's now going to be scored in 15th. He needs to get up to the 10th position to transfer into the main. And speaking of that transfer position, Drew, this is the battle for that transfer position, as Stan Hausman just got around Peter Certo, but here comes Certo roaring on back on the inside.
Yeah, great battle there, and quite frankly, not a lot to lose for these guys as far as real implications are concerned. It's either that 10th position or essentially nothing, because it doesn't super matter going into the last chance qualifier. So it'll be really interesting to see how those guys approach it. But now all of a sudden Hausman has a run on James Lorello, and now James Lorello's on the bubble spot. They both get into the wall, into each other, and that now knocks James Lorello out of the feature, and just 3 laps to go. This thing is clicking by fast here, folks, as taking a look at the replay here between Stan, and I think the 39 just enters a little high, and they just get kind of on each other, and then that's kind of what was going to happen at that point. Looking back live now, Stan Hausman and Peter Certo starting to run away from Lorello. Lorello not having the best of nights tonight, but it's still not over. About a lap and a half to go for these drivers, as John Cannizzaro has a just about 3-second lead, so we will just keep focused in on the action, especially considering the stakes involved. White flag lap here for these 3 drivers, of which only 2 will get through. James Dorello, a really good run through 1 and 2, as we are now looking at number 5, our race winner. But here comes the rest of the field. And oh, there we go. Peter Certo into the wall. James Dorello gets by him, gets through into the main. Peter Certo out.
How on earth did that happen? We're going to have to be very quick here on 3Y TV if we want to figure out what happened to the number 32 machine of Peter Certo. And oh my goodness, the number 9 machine, iRacing said, no, you can't watch that replay. But it looked like Lorello absolutely sent it in the number 9 machine, able to knock Peter Certo out of the main. That is, man, if Certo gets in the main, Drew, and he gets to the number 9 machine of Lorello, I think he is going to remember that one. Meanwhile, we still have another heat here on 3Y TV. We'll just briefly look at the results here of heat number 1. John Cannizzaro, Philip Scott, Colin Hillary, Doug Neal, Jeff Price, Brian Bradley, Travis White, Nathan Maurer, Stan Hausman, and James Dorello will all transfer into tonight's main event. Peter Certo, Justin White, Jamar Dumas, Garrett Gleason, Jason Gracias, Bilson, and Cherry will all have to go to the last chance qualifier. Drew, let's see if we can bring up the grid here, and why don't you start taking us through the grid for heat number 2?
Yeah. Starting up front will be that number 8 truck of Andrew Himmelman, with Mitchell Adams starting to his outside. Ben Izinga, I expect good things out of that number 07 truck here tonight, rolling off in 3rd. Jason Freeman in 4th. He's been a name that I've been hearing quite a bit about as far as speed here on dirt's concerned. JT Poole in 5th position. Evan Gilbert in 6th. TJ Buck in that Captain Crunch number 84 truck in 7th. Chris Darling, last week's winner, our points leader, in 8th. Jordan Shepler in 9th, and Monty Glover in the 10 truck, rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, and then back behind them on row number 6, David Harvey and Ben Mashburn. They're going to have to do a little bit of work if they want to qualify for the main event through this heat race. Back behind them, Robert Dudley, Doug Milliner, 13th and 14th. Matt Vanderkoy, Kyle Lewis, and John Doble, who is the out-of-race administrator here tonight. So he will not take part in heat number 2. And like we said, 10 drivers from this heat make it over into the main event here tonight, which will consist of 25 trucks. But immediately following heat number 2, we will have a consolation event. And I do believe that it will definitely be, Drew, the number 5 machine who will be able to go for that Buttkicker challenge. It might be a good night to go for the Buttkicker challenge, Drew, because that number 5 machine, John Cannizzaro, he was very, very quick. Had about a 2-second advantage at the end of heat number 1. I'm wondering if he's thinking about that extra prize brought to you by Buttkicker Challenge. We'll see whether or not he gets an end of longest line to start the main event here in just a little while. But speaking of going green, it is the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman leads us to the green flag in heat number 2. He gets a good start, but look at this gaggle of cars a little bit further back. We're 3 wide, almost 4 wide on the backstretch. Look at TJ Buck slinging it in there.
Yeah, oh, and the 20 gets into the wall a little bit. Not great for Jason Freeman at the start of this race. He's lost quite a few positions after starting. Where did that number... Yeah, we'll just keep on going. After starting 4th, there we go. I can read, I promise. That number 20 truck is down in 8th position. The 16 and Darling get together. Hard hit into the outside wall with the number 11 truck and that number 16. And then we got more contact. Monty Glover involved in the 24. And they're piling in as that surely will be a caution. That felt like about a minute of wrecking going on there, Peter.
Well, we're about to find out what all went down with this one because, oh man, look at that. Okay, so this is a little bit further back. The 19 machine and the 11 getting together. And look at them all getting together a little bit further back behind. Yep. Okay, so we'll have to we'll have to figure out what. I mean, this is just a bunch of trucks coming together. The 10 of Monty Glover, Ben Mashburn getting mashed up into the wall, and then they come down the racetrack, and there's the 18 machine. And I think the number 19 still ended up in the wall. And there's Robert Dudley coming down the racetrack. I mean, You're right, Drew. That accident lasted for basically a whole lap. Let's see if we can see what happened here, looking out back at the number 19 machine, because there goes Darling, sends it in. Oh, then the 19 got loose, gets up into the 11, hard hit there, and then they start wrecking out back, but then the 19 goes around again. Oh, he just kind of gets into the 6. He gets turned up into the wall. Then the 48 gets up in the wall of Dudley, and then he comes down and tags the 24 of Mashburn. So that was a very interesting wreck on lap number 4.
Yeah, I'm really glad this thing isn't voice activation, because you would be hearing an insane amount of laughter. Just like dominoes falling is how that whole wreck unfolded. Just one thing after the other leading to another thing. And yeah, here comes the 24 with the 11, I believe, who we're riding on board with. I believe it's the 11. I didn't quite catch it. And yeah, this is kind of what sets all that up is I think that contact between the 20 and the 24, I believe. And yeah, there's just more contact. And Peter, just a whole lot of action in a very short amount of time. And, we were on board with Monty Glover. My apologies. Oh, contact behind this mess as well. Yeah, I mean, you guys saw what happened. It was just one thing leading to the other, and butterfly effect essentially happening throughout the field is now... okay, that's not Jason Freeman. That was Jason Gracias leaving the server. He's not running right now. But good news for Andrew Himmelman, Ben Izinga, Mitchell Adams, JT Poole, TJ Buck, all those guys in the front, the very front of the field, they've been keeping it relatively clean. It's the back half that's had all these problems.
Yeah, and a lot of drivers here tonight have not run a whole lot of dirt. They don't have a lot of dirt experience, and some of the drivers are kind of getting birthed into the fire here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway, especially with these trucks that are very difficult to drive. We know Mitchell Adams, he's done some dirt running. We know Ben Izenga's done some dirt running. We know John Cannizzaro has done a decent amount of dirt, and it definitely showing here tonight with his pace in the number 5 truck, filling in for Ben Adams, who had a procedure done this week. Wishing him well in the number 5. We hope to see him back on the racetrack next week. But some of these drivers, Drew, they just don't have a feel for dirt. And I don't blame them. I don't have a feel for dirt all too much myself. It's very difficult racing side by side with trucks on dirt, especially with all the weight that they have, all the horsepower. And I don't think that's the first time or the last time we're going to see an accident here tonight. Meanwhile, the pace truck is heading down pit road, and looks like we're about to go back to green as the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman with a big wiggle out the back of that Auburn machine. He's going to sneak away once again. But look at JT Poole down there as the 07 machine of Ben Izenga goes way up to the top side. But look at this battle. We're 3 wide once again. Harvey on the inside. The 20 of Freeman gets into Scheffler, and now he's in the wall, and now the 11 is beating and banging off of him. The Scheffler lost a couple positions, and again Freeman losing positions.
Yeah, it's just been pretty disastrous for Freeman to start this race, and that number 07 as well on this restart, losing 3 spots right up the as soon as the green flag basically flew. But I've just noticed, Peter, that the guys that are just kind of uncomfortable with how sideways these things are getting are just really suffering here, because then they turn into that slide a little too hard, and then all of a sudden they're going straight, and their momentum's just taking them right into the outside wall. So that's what I'm seeing the biggest factor in causing some of this stuff is then you have to get way out of the gas. It stacks everything up. You just got to get that thing at a nice, angle and just kind of hold the wheel and just manipulate the gas to keep the truck from over-rotating and stuff like that. Now, again, I am not a dirt expert, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Oh, the 20 and the 11 get together right there. That was a heck of a save by Chris Darling. And like you mentioned, Peter, it's really hard, especially for the guys on a single monitor, to know where the trucks are in relation to them. I feel like this is the one single form of iRacing that probably benefits the most from VR, maybe not with these specific vehicles, but the ability to just have complete vision and awareness of what's going on around you would be very beneficial here.
Well, we are getting word. I'm getting late word from a official here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series that there has been a little bit of a change in the last chance qualifier. We'll get that. But Drew, I'll just let you know, it is important that you're in the top 10 of these heat races, because that number of drivers advancing from the LCQ, it's going to be only one. That is going to be a wild one for sure here in just a little bit here on 3 Wide TV. Andrew Himmelman sweeping his way through turn number 1 and 2, getting a little bit of pressure out back from Mitchell Adams, who has caught him in the MaxGrafix number 49 truck, your reigning series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, trying to pick up win number 1 on dirt here in the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Meanwhile, back behind him, Ben Izenga, TJ Buck locked in a little battle for the 3rd position, but really that battle for the 10th position, we're looking at Jason Freeman right now, who is in that spot, Drew. He's on the bubble. If he loses another spot here, he would be out of the main here. And, of course, he would still have an opportunity as he smacks it outside wall, just grinding off the right side of the Mason-Dixon Cornhole Chevrolet right there. But at least for right now, it is Robert Dudley who has got himself into a transfer position in front of him. Freeman is still in a transfer position, but it is a long ways back to the number 6 of Doug Milliner, who's trying to get himself clawed up to the 10th spot right now, but we only have 2 laps to go. But look at Ben Izenga, Drew. He's found some pace. He's running that high line, and that high line has really come alive in the 07 machine here, slinging it, trying to take the lead here on the final lap.
Yeah, a great discovery by Izenga. This is what we were talking about. Can guys find something here late? Can Izenga get him? Oh, contact between the two. Himmelman with a little bit of a block mid-corner. He'll take the heat number 2 win. But most importantly, at that cutoff point, it will be Robert Dudley, the last driver transferring in. And that leaves some of the other guys that got involved in some wrecks earlier out. And as you mentioned, Peter, only one will advance in the last chance qualifier. So huge. I think that makes the move that James Lorello pulled absolutely worth it, right? Like, now that only one guy comes from the LCQ, I probably would have done the same in that situation.
Yeah, that is for sure. So let's bring up the results here of heat number 2. Himmelman taking the win. Adams 2nd. Ben Izenga, TJ Buck in 4th. JT Poole, David Harvey, Chris Darling, Jordan Scheffler, Jason Freeman, Robert Dudley. Those drivers automatically advance. But back behind him, Doug Milliner, Evan Gilbert, Matt Vanderkoy, Ben Mashburn, Monty Glover, Kyle Lewis there, and John Doble. Of course, Doble's not necessarily racing here tonight, but those drivers finishing 11th through 16th, they're going to have to race their heart out here in this 10-lap last chance qualifier, consolation, whatever you want to call it. It is going to be a very interesting one here over the next couple laps. Let's bring up your starting lineup for this consolation. It'll be Peter Serto, who starts on the inside of the front row. Doug Milliner alongside him, Justin White, Evan Gilbert, 3rd and 4th, Jamar Dumas, Matt Vanderkoy, Garrett Gleason, Ben Mashburn, Jason Gracias, Monty Glover, Paul Bilson, and Kyle Lewis. And we'll see whether or not the number 38 machine gets out there on the racetrack. Yes, he has. Jason Gracias, on the other hand, I believe has left the server, and I don't think he will be partaking here in this last chance qualifier. So the number 1 machine, your winner from Daytona, started off the season in the Stay Tuned Sports 300 there, will not be taking part of this one. And Drew, I think this is going to be a wild 10-lap event.
It certainly is. Now that the stakes are so high, that 32 truck is just, ruining what happened in that first heat.
But Drew, I have late breaking news. If the last one was breaking news, this is even more breaking. Just keeping us commentators on our toes. Now getting word that iRacing has reverted it back somehow, some way. And iRacing is now saying 5 drivers will advance as it was originally scheduled. So, I don't know what's going on. I'm sure that the race administrators don't know what iRacing is doing. iRacing, what are you doing? Do we ever really know? I don't think we do. But so now 5 drivers will advance as it was originally scheduled. So just keeping us on our toes here in this one here on 3Y TV, the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby This is the last chance qualifier, Drew, and we are about to go green.
Yeah, later breaking your news. In fact, so the top 5 will advance. Peter Certo leads them to the green flag, and now all eyes are on that 5th position right now, held by that number 28 truck. And once again, just like the heat's 20 laps, as the number 24 and number 51 make significant contact a little bit further behind these folks. But Peter, it's going to be interesting to see. There's no time for hurt feelings in this thing. If you don't finish in that top 5, it's over. So I think these guys are going to do whatever they need to do to put themselves inside that top 5.
Yeah, we're going to really just feature this transfer position, I think, in this particular race. This is where it all is right now. The number 28 of Jamar Dumas, the number 6 right there of Doug Milliner, and then back behind them, of course, you got a warping number 24 machine of Ben Mashburn just popping in and out of the racetrack. And a little bit of contact between Evan Gilbert and Ben Mashburn, the 19 and the 24, just giving each other a little bit of a donut on the side of those trucks. But look at the number 10, Monty Glover. I think something must have happened to Monty Glover, Drew, in that last heat. But up at the front of the field, Justin White now making a move on Peter Certo, as we're starting to see some of these trucks use quite different lines from one another.
Yeah, it seems like that very top lane right on the edge of the dirt is really coming in if you can keep it out of the wall. Number 32 in the wall a little bit. Number 2 gets loose. That's going to bottleneck the bottom. Here comes that 24 truck making a great move to the inside of Peter Certo. Now Ben Mashburn up to second. Slide job. Oh, and now Peter Certo turns him. Is that going to be a caution? Oh, Peter Certo into the inside wall. Surely that will bring out a caution. Maybe it'll be delayed. There it goes. Absolutely. That's what I figured. That number 32 got to be dejected, just kind of probably sitting with his head down at what just occurred. And just a whole bunch of slide jobs, and the 32 just gets back to the gas a little sooner and just can't get off that 24. Heavy contact for both drivers. That 32 is probably done. That 24 has some massive damage right there. So what set this whole thing up is he got into the outside wall, allowed these trucks to get a huge run, and then tries to kind of do an over-under move on the 24. It's just not really there for him, and then unfortunately they just kind of get hooked together and smack into the inside wall, and that's I don't know if that 32 was able to get it rolling again. If not, that's game over.
Yeah, and he sits in his pit box right now, goes one lap down, unfortunately, in the Jansen Racing Engines Chevy. And he was one of my sleepers here tonight. Definitely was, in my opinion, looking very, very good in the practice session. And that is a tough break here for Peter Certo. And then we got Peter John Certo in the chat here tonight joining us on 3 Wide TV. And I'm sure he will be rather disappointed as well with that outcome. Well, folks, let's go over to the chat here just a little bit. Christopher Darling says, I can't confirm the admins have no clue what is going on. I mean, you know, that's pretty much normal for iRacing, I have to say. Tana Himmelman said congratulations to Andrew Himmelman for winning heat number 2. William Kerwin is rooting on the number 19 of Evan Gilbert. He has a little bit of work to do now after that contact. He went all the way back to the 10th position. Paul Bilson in the number 51 machine, he is also being scored one lap down as well. So he's going to need one of those Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards to try and get back on the lead lap here in this heat. That could be a tall order for Paul. But folks, if you're in the chat here tonight, we really do appreciate you joining us here on 3Y TV. What do you think of the dirt? I think it's great so far. I mean, this consolation race, Drew, we had, 3, maybe even 4 wide there for a brief moment just a little while ago. And this is awesome. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I love the kind of constant racing. One of my favorite things about going to race tracks and weekend racing events is when they just have race after race after race on a Sunday, leading to the big feature, whether it's F1, NASCAR, whatever, right? Just a ton of racing going on that builds up to that final one. And that's basically what we have here tonight, a bunch of races to get into the big one. And as you can see, a lot of pressure on these guys, and they're going to do what they think they need to do to get up there. One truck I'm keeping my eye on is that number 38 of Matt Cherry. Had a little bit of contact with Paul Bilson before that yellow was thrown, but this kind of resets it for that number 38 sitting in 6th position, only one spot out of that transfer position.
Well, the big thing about Matt Cherry, Drew, is waiting for the trucks to roll into the shot here, is Cherry's getting really close to that transfer position here, Drew. And he was one of those drivers who needed a good race here. He started towards the back. He's gained 8 positions here in the opening few laps, and we are back under green flag here in the last chance qualifier here in tonight's Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby at Bristol. And look at this, 3 wide up towards the front of the field. This is crazy. Glover on the top side, Cherry in the middle, and Mashburn on the inside line. Glover smacking it off the outside wall through turn number 3 and 4 as Mashburn there struggling to get a little bit of grip on the inside groove. He's going to drop back, but Glover here really having a good run. You see him once again smacking off the outside wall, just finding a little bit of grip on the top side of the racetrack. He's going to charge down the number 6 machine here at Mulliner.
Well, Peter, I mean, we have run Bristol together before, and honestly, the quick line is when you basically just tap the wall with your right side through the center of the corner, and with dirt, since you're sliding around even more, it can become even more beneficial. Now, that is one thing the officials are looking for, is guys that are taking advantage of the feature, I guess you could call it, that the wall can give you here at Bristol in iRacing, because it doesn't really typically damage suspension in a way that would make sense. So there's not a lot of penalty for gentle contact to that outside wall just to get that thing to turn. And that's what that 10 truck's been doing fairly consistently. So the 24's around right towards the back of the screen, and the 16 coming into the pit lane as well. The 24, Ben Mashburn, was up to 2nd at one point here, as we'll get this replay real quick for everybody. And just loses the front end going into the corner, into the outside wall, and then into Paul Bilson. And spin cycle for the 24 gets that thing going, but he is going to need a caution plus to get back up there. Looking back up front is that number 6 of Doug Milner, still in the race lead. Basically your top 5 folks haven't changed. Actually, a pretty decent buffer between Jamar Dumas and Paul Bilson. Bilson not looking like he's really comfortable in that number 51 truck right now, but it just takes one big mistake here, Peter, like we saw from drivers throughout this race, to just all of a sudden get that 51 back in this.
And Matt Vander Kooi in the number 60 machine has spun coming out of turn number 2. Will this bring out the caution flag? He is stuck in the inside wall as well. It looks like day done for Matt Vander Kooi. He has taken a tow back to pit road. Meanwhile, 3 laps to go. 5 drivers will transfer. It looks like Milliner, Monty Glover, Matt Cherry, Justin White, and Jamar Dumas. If these 5 trucks, Drew, can just make it the next couple of laps, is wow. Glover sent it into turn number 1 and 2. We'll see how the officials deem that one, because he definitely sent it in there, banged it off the wall, and was able to pick up a spot because of it. Meanwhile, the number 6 of Milliner smacks it off the wall in a very different spot on the racetrack, but looks like Glover will win this heat as we are on the white flag lap coming through turn number 3 and 4. Monty Glover will make his way into the main event here tonight. And unfortunately for 6th position, Garrett Gleason on back, coming up a little bit short. Here comes Gleason. He will not make it. Kyle Lewis will not make it, as will most of the other drivers back behind them. But Monty Glover wins the last chance qualifier, and that will set up the field here tonight. Now, Drew, the big question here now is going to be, as we have a little bit of a warm-up session, we do have to go down. We have to ask a certain driver a certain question here on 3 Wide TV. And of course, we ask the question each and every week here. Only one driver has attempted it so far, but of course that is the Buttkicker challenge. And we'll see if Mr. John Cannizzaro will attempt it this week. Just trying to see where he is here in the Discord. I'm not seeing him in the Discord at the moment, and yeah, not seeing...
Sim shot.
Sim shots, sim shots, sim shots, sim shots, sim shots. Ah, there he is. All right, let's drag him down here into the 3-wide TV booth. Thank you, Drew. You have keener eyes than I do. John Cannizzaro, Peter Short, 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'll tell you what, John. We've only seen one driver attempt it so far this season. It didn't work out for him. That was James Lorello a couple of weeks ago. But, of course, we got the Buttkicker Challenge. You're going to be starting on the pole. You picked up the pole award brought to you, of course, by our friends over at Craig's Setup Shop a little while ago. But the Buttkicker Challenge, if you don't know what it is, if you decide to do it, you'll get an end of longest line penalty to start the race from the tail end of the field. And if you win the race, you pick up some extra cash. John, the option's yours. Will we see you attempt the Buttkicker Challenge here tonight to try and butt kick the field?
Tempted as it is, just a track like this, it's not the greatest to pass on. It's going to be a little rough, so I'm going to decline that.
Well, I'll tell you what, you have 90 laps to get to the front. I mean, that's plenty of time to do it. We saw a lot of pace out of you. In fact, we heard from a couple of drivers prior to the race. You are probably the driver in the field who has the most dirt experience. What are you looking to see out there tonight?
Just hoping it's a nice, fair race. Obviously, I'm only here for one race. I don't want to get rough around the edges on anybody, but if I could at least bring home a win, that'd be pretty nice for Ben and them guys up here in Sim Shots.
Yeah, of course, Ben Adams not racing here tonight in the number 5 machine. If you're just now joining us, he had an operation this week, and he will hopefully be back in the truck next week. But, John, best of luck here tonight. No Punterinos as well, hopefully out the front end of that number 5 machine, I should say, here. And we'll see if you can make it to victory lane here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move him back to his group, not participating in the the Buttkicker Challenge. So, even if he wins tonight, Drew, he will not butt kick the field.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand the choice given what we've seen unfold, but I think he's probably been he's had the greatest amount of separation between he and second place that I think we've seen anywhere thus far in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here at NSRA. So I was going to be interested to see what he thought. I mean, I think he could get that 5 truck through the field cleanly, just pending unforeseen circumstances. So a little disappointing. Maybe next week at the Roval, hopefully somebody will take it, and we'll get him one of these days.
Yeah, of course, Buttkicker. Great having them on board here in the 2021A National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Folks, if you haven't checked out Buttkicker, make sure you do so, especially if you have a sim rig, as you do a little bit of argy-bargy there down the backstretch. Buttkicker provide a feeling that you can't get with any other product. They add an extra dimension. You think of those 4D seats at the IMAX? Well, that's what Buttkicker provides for your sim rig. They definitely add a significant amount of vibration and feel to your sim rig that you don't get anywhere else. They do so with a lot of sound. And great to have them on board. As you see, the number 5 of Cannizzaro, he is racing the Buttkicker machine here tonight. And Drew, I thought that if anyone was going to do it, it was going to be the Buttkicker truck here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, a missed opportunity to plug your sponsor, I guess, right? I would think that one Ben Adams might have been given a certain driver of the number 5 this week no choice, given the sponsor on that number 5 machine, but no dice here tonight, unfortunately. But he's put himself in a really good position as far as getting the pole's concerned, running really well in Heat 1, and just keeping that number 5 drama free. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep doing so in the race, because folks, unlike these first 3 races that we've seen 20 laps apiece, this featured 90 laps, quite a bit different challenge, Peter, to keep these trucks clean and competitive for 90 laps here on Bristol Dirt.
Yeah, and let's see if we can start the lineup for you here tonight, folks. John Cannizzaro, we just talked with him, not partaking in the Buttkicker Challenge this week. However, he did pick up the Craig Setup Shop Pole Award. Links in the description, folks, for both the Buttkicker website as well as Craig's Setup Shop as well. So if you're in the market for picking up some iRacing setups, maybe for Bristol Dirt or one of the other racetracks that we race here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, make sure you check them out. But Andrew Himmelman, winner of heat number 2, will be starting alongside NSRA. Row number 2, Philip Scott, Mitchell Adams, Colin Ullery, Ben Izenga. Row number 3, Izenga looking for a good night here after last week's race. Definitely didn't go to plan at Michigan. Doug Neal, TJ Buck, row number 4. And rounding out your top 10, Jeff Price and JT Poole, Drew.
Brian Bradley in that number 16 truck rolling off 11th with that number 00 to his outside. Travis White will be starting in 13th. Chris Darling in 14th position. Nathan Maurer in that will be in that 971 truck will be rolling off in 15th. Jordan Shepler in 16th. Stan Hausman 17th. Jason Freeman 18th. James Lorello, we saw that move to get him into the 19th position. And the main Robert Dudley, the last truck to move from Heat 2 into the feature race. Monty Glover, Matt Cherry, Justin White, Doug Milner, Jamar Dumas, all transferred from the last chance qualifier. And those are the bottom 5 of your complete starting grid here at Bristol.
So a little bit of an endurance race now. We went from the 320 lap races that we've run so far, and now a 90 lap final feature here, of course, in the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby main. And the green flag is in the flagman's hand, and we are about to go green flag. There is a green flag. And Drew, we're off and racing on dirt here for the first time in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We have a main, and already Mitchell Adams back there in the 07 and Ben Izenga getting into it with one another.
Yeah, it didn't take long as the 77 gets dead sideways. We're 3 wide and multiple. Oh, we're 4 wide coming out of 4 for a split second. Oh, the number 15 gets turned. And that is going to be a huge pileup going into turn 1.
And the number 9 machine of Lorello, his night is already done here, folks. That was an absolute massive, massive accident. We'll see if we can dial this one up for you. It all happened with the number 16. Look at Brian Bradley there going across the racetrack, gets into the side of the 07 of Ben Izenga, comes down, catches the number 14 machine. Here comes TJ Buck, nowhere for him to go. Bradley goes sideways, and then right into the 26 of JT Poole, winner at Bristol last season. Poole gets stuck in the inside wall, and then everyone back behind him trying to do all they can to avoid the carnage. Nowhere for Shepler to go. Look at Stan Hausman, the number 39 machine sliding in there. The Tropical Smoothie Cafe machine. Matt Cherry getting involved at the back of the field. And Drew, I mean, we talked about, and you see the number 9 machine of Lorello up there at the top of the screen. He has had to take a toe back pit row. Looks like Monty Glover also smoking in the number 10 machine. A lot of trucks taken out here early on. Let's go on board here with Monty Glover. Watch this all unfold in front of him. And it couldn't really see anything. I know we're looking at the top of the air of the car here, and that was a heavy, heavy hit for him. Let's see if we can figure out what happened to the number 11 machine of Chris Darling, because he got a piece of this one. We'll get a pretty decent look. Let's see if we can go on board. See what you can see from inside. You can see he checked up, and oh man, gets up into the air a little bit in the MaxGrafix.co machine, but that's taken out quite a few trucks. The 84 machine, TJ Buck, his night appears done. Jeff Price, the number 14 machine, he is heavily damaged. The 26 machine, JT Poole, he's heavily damaged, Drew. That is going to definitely knock out a couple of these drivers here in the early going.
Yeah, by my count, Peter, because I done the numbers. 8 clean trucks left in this race. Basically, Ben Izenga was the only truck to kind of make it through that, with the exception of one number 28 truck of Jamar Dumas. Now, that is not saying that some of those trucks involved in that wreck cannot be competitive, but that number 07 was the last truck before the entire track was blocked. So maybe it's a good thing that the number 5 machine didn't take that Buttkicker challenge, because I think that his day might have been done right there, Peter. But not a lot of trucks left, I think, at this point. So I anticipate these next 85 laps being a little bit different than the first lap and a half.
Yeah, that is for sure. Now, I would like to see if we can go back and get one more look. Pace truck lights have turned off, so we'll see if we could do this really quickly. But one driver I want to watch in this was the 00 here of David Harvey. We go on board here and watch Harvey. He gets into the 84 machine, but he gets a little bit lucky there. Nathan Maurer looks like the number 9 of Lorello. Ouchies. Lorello's night's done, but Harvey got away with that one without a whole lot of damage, and that's going to be good for him. We'll go back up to the front of the field because, well, the caution lights had turned off. They have turned back on because we have a couple of trucks here having to do the wave around. We didn't have any driver picking up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, but looking at the scoring pile, Drew, we got 15 trucks on the lead lap right now. Milliner, Darling, Maurer, Glover, White, Price, Lorello, Dudley, Buck, Poole, out. We've just basically whittled this down from the main to about the number of trucks we had in those heat races a little while ago.
Yeah, I mean, there were, by my count, 17 trucks involved in that wreck. Now, guys like Dave Harvey, like I did not catch that 00 when I watched the replays. A fantastic job, but he still had some contact, and I would consider him involved. So 17 trucks were involved in that melee as we get this thing back under green. The number 5 quickly cuts to the outside, trying to keep that thing out front. Really impressed with the number 62 of Colin Ullery late in that first heat. He was showing quite a bit of speed out of that number 62 truck. It'll be interesting to see what he has for Cannizzaro as he is applying some pretty significant pressure now as that number 8 truck has to basically just give that second position to the number 62, gets into the outside wall right there. A couple contacts with the outside wall as Drew Himmelman gets into it as well, and now Philip Scott taking it to the inside for third position as a little bit of contact further on back involving Dave Harvey and Ben Izinga there, Pete.
Yeah, they just kind of bounced off of one another. We'll continue to watch this battle between the 8 and the 99. They are out there on the racetrack. I believe Christopher Darling has returned to the racetrack in his Ford F-150, your points leader, entering tonight. Heavy damage on that truck. You see him trying to stay out of the way. Cannizzaro, though, just hit the outside wall, Drew. Some pretty sparks. Yes, they're pretty as in beautiful sparks coming off the right side of the number 5 machine, but he's finding a little bit of grip up there on the wall. Everyone else back behind him, though. Whoa, big contact back there. That's Doug Neal and Ben Izinga. They're still trying to get things sorted out. Good job by those drivers as they get close to one another. They keep things going in the right direction, so that's the good news. But up at the front of the field, Philip Scott, Colin Ullery, they do battle, give the spot to Philip Scott, as he's now 1.5 seconds or so behind your race leader, the number 5 machine of Cannizzaro. And Scott's running right down there on the bottom side of the racetrack, Drew, so he's found a little bit of grip down there. He's found a line that he likes, and he's making some moves with it.
Yeah, he is certainly the outlier amongst those front trucks and what he can do. He just looks like he's being fairly consistent and just really good throttle control, and he's making that bottom lane work versus that upper lane is more of a high risk, high reward situation, right? Like because you're running closer to that wall, it's going to make it a little more likely that you might get into the wall and kind of have some substantial issues. But that number 5 not sneaking away from Philip Scott, a big slide there through 1 and 2 though for that number 99 truck. And that's the thing about the bottom, Peter, that I think is so tricky. Is it's really more of a disciplined groove than running that high lane. When you just have a lot more throttle in that truck on that high lane, you just really have to be patient on the bottom and just wait and just slowly feed throttle into it as you get out of the corner.
A little bit further back here, we look at the number 20. That is Jason Freeman racing with Travis White, the number 23 machine. Back behind them is Jamar Dumas in the number 28. He is on the lead lap. There they go around the number 13, Jordan Schepler. Schepler being scored 7 laps down in the number 13 Essential Chevrolet. But that battle for right now is going to go to Jason Freeman up at the front of the field. Cannizzaro has he's gone down to the bottom line, Drew, he saw what Philip Scott was doing, and he has now taken off like a rocket up to a 1.9 second lead. He's really getting that thing sideways, Drew. And the one thing he can do, though, is he can drive it off the corner straight. That's what's so important about dirt. Let's see if we can go on board here with the number 5 machine. As Chris Darling has gone around there in the MaxGrafix.co machine, as well as we're getting word that Mitchell Adams has just made a pass on Andrew Himmelman for the 4th position. Let's see if we can dial that one up here on the 3-wide TV replay. This was just a little while ago. Did something happen here to the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman or not? They go off into the corner. And, the 8 machine just pushed up the racetrack there, Drew, not finding any grip. And he was able, or at least the 49 of Adams was able to make that move. He is now up in the 4th position, but back up to Cannizzaro, getting that truck really yawed out, driving it up off the corner straight, getting the power down, and really motoring out of these corners. And he's up to a 2.5 second lead.
It's like a light switch just flicked on the track, and now all of a sudden everybody is running that bottom lane. None of the top 5 are even coming close to running that high lane, and then of course Colin Ullery kind of runs halfway up the track. But it just seems like all of a sudden the speed's at the bottom, and we talked about this racetrack will go through shifts, and then once that bottom lane is rubbered up enough, you'll try to find somewhere else with grip, and it's just going to constantly be one of those moving targets. And just the best guy out there right now as far as hitting that target is concerned is John Cannizzaro with now a 2.7 second lead, but coming up on some lap traffic. And to me, that's the thing that can most derail the number 5 right here, is getting caught up in the lap traffic because he's so much quicker, and there's just not a lot of abilities to kind of react to these trucks because on dirt, just things kind of, the truck isn't going to cut when you turn the wheel. You're going to wait a little bit for that input to actually have an effect, as the 20 not giving John any room right now, going 3 wide with our race leader. That is not what he wants to see, and he wisely backs out of it.
Yeah, he said it's going to be difficult to pass out here, and those lappers right there, Freeman and Cherry locked in their own battle, proving just how difficult it is to pass here. But John Cannizzaro filling in for Ben Adams. He's still running around the same lap times, as you can see there, as Philip Scott back behind him. So that number 99 truck not quite picking up as much ground as he hoped he would. Meanwhile, Mitchell Adams has picked up another spot. He got around Colin Ullery, and Ullery has now slid back another spot behind the number 8 machine of that's driven, of course, by Andrew Himmelman. So a couple of those positions there changing hands, and now Nathan Maurer has caught up to the 62 of Ullery. So, Drew, I wonder if Ullery, he got well down the racetrack. I was about to say, I wonder if Ullery is one of those drivers who prefers the top side of the racetrack, and now that the groove has transitioned to the bottom side of the racetrack, I wonder if kind of Ullery has lost his groove.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a ton of speed out of that 62 truck early on in this race and in his heat, but he's just seemed to struggle as caution flag is out now, and that's going to reset this field a little bit. Not quite sure what happened. We'll get that replay queued up for you folks.
Drew,
do you know what happened?
Yeah, this is actually the 1/3 stage break. So, of course, we do have one stage break here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. This is it. So this will bring out the caution flag. The field will get re-racked. And just looking at who is going to be the lucky dog, do believe it's going to be Jason Freeman in the number 20 machine. We'll have to confirm that. But the number 5 machine, John Cannizzaro, is coming down pit road. Philip Scott, the number 99, staying out. But meanwhile, every other driver looks to be coming down pit road, except for maybe the 99, and it looks like maybe Jamar Dumas as well in his Pittsburgh Penguin Chevy Silverado. Maybe he's pitting on the backstretch. Maybe that's why. But Philip Scott is definitely staying out. Stan Hausman staying out as well. Brian Bradley out there. And Cannizzaro is on and off pit road very, very quickly in the number 5 Buttkicker Chevy Silverado. So probably just topping off on fuel there, Drew, here around lap number 30. We would assume that he'd be able to go the rest of the distance from here to close out tonight's race with no more additional pit stops. Oh, contact. And wow, the number 16 there of Bradley was undecisive, Drew, coming to pit road. And that is not going to be good for John Cannizzaro.
Yeah, that's pretty disastrous, in fact, for the number 5, depending on the state of that truck. Did he lose those spots? Is iRacing not going to give him the spots back? It doesn't look like it. I don't think so. So all of a sudden, we have a change of race lead under caution. Unexpected, but interesting nonetheless. This hands the race lead to the number 99 of Philip Scott. Will the 5 truck come down pit road? He decides not to. But yeah, that's fascinating. Now, I think, is he losing all positions? It's just interesting to see what's going on. I don't know how iRacing is scoring this, and unfortunately, I can't really have any way of knowing because it doesn't tell you where each car is going to go. We don't have, unfortunately, we don't have like an audible iRacing from iRacing race control that would tell you, okay, this is what happened, this is where the 5's going to end up. But it looks like he got into longest line from the sim or something. I can't tell what happened.
All we know is problems for the number 5 machine of John Cannizzaro. He's going to have to come from the 11th position. We'll see if the pace lights indeed turn off here. Getting word that indeed Jason Freeman is the first recipient here tonight of the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award in the number 20 machine right there. His Chevy Silverado right there in the center of your picture. So he'll be the 12th car, or truck I should say, on the lead lap. Brian Bradley in the number 16 machine. He sits on pit road. We'll see whether or not he gets a penalty for that contact under caution flag, but it will be Philip Scott here, Drew, leading us back to green flag here in just under half a lap.
Yeah, fascinating things unfolding here in what I thought would be a fairly boring into the feature race. Not so, as things have been shaken up here with the number 99 now leading the field to the green flag down the backstretch. Pretty clear racetrack for that number 99. And now, Peter, it feels like this is going to be wide open. And is the 5 severely damaged? What's the state of that truck? Is he going to be able to get back up there? Is a little bit of door banging out of turn 4 between the number 07 and surrounding trucks. I thought the 07 was going to looper there on the bottom. Keeps it going, but this is where all the action is right here at the tail end of the top 5. 49 of Mitchell Adams, 62 of Colin Ullery. Now in shot the 23, the 5 of Cannizzaro's getting up in there, and it's just up front, kind of, single file, fairly even keeled, but back here is where all the contact and door-to-door banging is going on. Can Cannizzaro make it work? Izinga gets together with the 23. Cannizzaro possibly makes it 3 wide. Contact with the number 07, and that's the tricky thing, Peter, is you can be faster like we talked, but it's going to be hard to pass and not make contact with these guys.
And look at David Harvey and Ben Izenga. Contact between those two and the 28 of Dumas. They're all just banging doors back here in the pack as Cannizzaro trying to take a look underneath now the 07 machine. He was able to take advantage of that little bit of beating and banging between some of the other trucks around him. But I'm just wondering here, Drew, if that inside groove is starting to go away for Cannizzaro here, as it seems like he's not quite making the moves you expect him to see as he kind of gets log jammed behind the number 23 of Travis White, who's also struggling here on the inside groove. When we go 3 wide off into the corner, Cannizzaro has to back out, and here comes Jamar Dumas, although Dumas got completely slideways back there in his truck. Now Travis White and Cannizzaro, this is the battle right now for the 8th position out there on the racetrack. You see some truck down there on pit road smoking right now with some serious engine trouble. But I think that low line's starting to give way, Drew, just a little bit as Jamar Dumas going toe-to-toe with one of the other trucks out there. I'm just not seeing any of these drivers really make up any time now on the bottom side of the racetrack.
Yeah, Peter, the 99 got into it with the 8 race leader in second position. The 99 ended up going for a loop, and then all of a sudden, the 99 finds himself further back in the pack, and now the 8 with a massive lead. So drama for the race lead once again, as Philip Scott just kind of fighting over the same real estate as the number 8. I don't think it's anything intentional here. We come out of turn 4. The 8 shows his nose, and then it's certainly on the 8, but the 99 does a good job recovering from that. And once again, we think this thing is fairly settled, and all of a sudden comes undone for the race leader for the second time tonight.
Yeah, John Cannizzaro has made his way up to the 7th position. Now he's using the high line here exclusively. Drew, seems like that low line has disappeared. We saw Cannizzaro making all those moves down there, making all that time. Now he's going to have to do so up on the high line of the racetrack. And Drew, you mentioned it a little while ago that the inside groove here in the dirt track, as we enter the second half now of the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby main here, that low line, you can make up a lot of ground down there because it takes a lot of driver talent as Cannizzaro there able to use that low line to get around Stan Hausman, but it takes a lot of throttle control to run that low line and still be fast. Once you're on the high line, though, it doesn't take quite as much throttle control to kind of sling it up there, especially when you have a strong cushion like what you're seeing here. So I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for Cannizzaro to make some passes, but he's still got plenty of time to do so here. 43 laps to go in the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby main. Next car on his radar is your reigning series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, the number 49 of Mitchell Adams.
Yeah, Cannizzaro doing a pretty good job of cutting through this field. You know that number 5 isn't perfectly healthy, though, Peter. We saw what he could do as far as putting time between he and the other drivers around him, especially as the run went on. But enough pace to certainly be a worry for the rest of the field. But, Peter, how much time is he going to lose trying to get through these guys? Because they're kind of running the lane that he wants to be, and it seems like the low line is still the place to be. Can the 5 make that high lane work? It just seems like there's not a ton of grip up there, as he actually lost time to Mitchell Adams through 1 and 2 as he tried to make that high lane work. I think it's just going to be a fight for the bottom between these drivers.
Well, he did just make that pass on the number 49 of Adams, although here comes Adams trying to use that low line to get back by the number 5 of Cannizzaro. But, I mean, he's worked his way up here, Drew, from, the 11th position up to 5th. But the number 8 of Himmelman's running some really good lap times as Cannizzaro dives it down to the inside, has to back out of it, and that might open the door for the 49 of Mitchell Adams. Cannizzaro trying to get around to Doug Neal in the 77 Simbox truck, who's right in front of him. You see Cannizzaro running a little bit higher up there on the racetrack than Doug Neal. Neal running what I would consider, Drew, quite a defensive line, although Cannizzaro here trying to pull off the slide job down there on the bottom side of the racetrack, not able to do so, and almost contact between those two Chevrolets.
Yeah, my apologies, folks. It's great when you forget that you were watching a replay, and then all of a sudden you're behind, and you think you're commentating on what's going on live. But happens to the best of us. But a great battle here between Doug Neal and the number 5 truck. And man, I think the 5 really needs to be all the way on the bottom. This kind of 2/3 to the bottom just isn't working for him. And what Doug needs to really do is protect that outside lane as he leaves the door open. Will he shut it on Cannizzaro? He does shut it on Cannizzaro. A late block right there, and that really held up the 5. But that's going to be challenging to maintain. I think Doug really needs to move up. Otherwise, the 5's going to get a run on him eventually. But it's how much time does this cost Cannizzaro now? 5.6 seconds behind our race leader, the number 8 of Drew Himmelman. And Peter, we're clicking these laps off. Only about 45 to go now. His big slide job from the number 5 truck and the number 77 fight back. The 49 takes it 3 wide. I think the 5 has him now, and now put John Cannizzaro up to 4th position, 5.7 seconds back. That's a long way to go.
And contact between Mitchell Adams and Doug Neal. Will that bring out a yellow? It does bring out a caution flag. Doug Neal goes around and goes up the racetrack right in front of... Ooh, he comes back down the racetrack. That was pretty close there. Almost another accident with Doug Neal and Jason Freeman. But let's go back and see how this all happened, because this is going to be a big help to the number 5 of John Cannizzaro, because he's going to be able to get all that time back on the race leader, but just a little bit of a nudge there by the 49 and the 77. And unfortunately, it does not work out for the Simbach 77. Doug Neal having a really good night here in the 77 truck, but he's going to lose all that track position, fall all the way back to 12th.
Yeah, it looks like he honestly just came down in the 49 and just some contact, ensued. And on dirt, unless it's kind of late exit, contact through the center of the corner, it's going to be difficult when you're have that much kind of lateral momentum to keep that thing under control, especially when they kind of hook together like that. And unfortunately, the 77 kind of, did that to himself more or less. But yeah, you mentioned the number 5. This is huge for him. The second truck on the outside lane, if he can get even if he doesn't get an exceptional restart, it erases the time deficit, which was the 5's biggest enemy. And he's got to be feeling like, oh man, I got this huge opportunity in front of me, as does the number 38 of Matt Cherry, our Brookstone Animal Lucky Dog Award winner. This will put that 38 truck onto the lead lap, now up to 13 trucks on the lead lap. And we saw a lot of pace out of this 38 truck, a little bit of damage there, and coming down pit road aggressively is Matt Cherry, but at least he'll be back on the lead lap. Thank you to Brookstone Animal Hospital for sponsoring that award. But Peter, what do you think's going to happen? You think Cannizzaro is the truck to beat all of a sudden? He just has to basically get up there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the good news for Cannizzaro is he's going to be starting on the outside of row number 2. That seems like the preferred line right now. In fact, I'd expect Andrew Himmelman to use that high line here for the restart, which I think will really give a benefit to the number 5 truck. Now, if Himmelman is thinking here, he might realize that Cannizzaro is potentially his biggest threat, and maybe he'll decide to kind of use the low line to see if he can get the low line a little bit advantage to thwart the outside line here for this particular restart. So could be a little bit of mind games here on this upcoming restart here on 3 Wide TV. Let's go over to the chat. JT Poole in the chat saying, I wish my engine didn't blow so I could at least still be out there. Yeah, that was definitely not a fun night. Jeff Price in the chat saying he had a wheel disconnect in his car. Now, I did notice that there was an issue with Jeff Price. Jeff, I think you made it back out there on the racetrack. In fact, we can go back and see as pace car lights have turned off. This is what happened to Jeff Price. I think he was involved in the early accident out there here tonight, and then he was all by his lonesome. This was quite a long time ago. Around lap number 44, wheel disconnect just pounded the outside wall, and unfortunately, that's what did it for the number 14 truck. Let's go back live on board here with the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman. He is going to use that low line here for the restart. Green flag waves once again here, Drew, and we're off racing off into turn number 1. Ullery got a good restart on that outside groove. Can he take the race lead? No, he cannot. But coming out of turn number 2, look at that side-by-side battle for third, including Cannizzaro and the number 99 of Philip Scott.
Yeah, great restart by Philip Scott. Not a great restart. Well, I guess not initial, but not a great restart for that bottom line. Kind of surprised. We've seen the leader have a significant advantage as, contact right there. That's going to open the door for Cannizzaro to take that high lane. Will the number 99 shut the door? He does not. And I have a sneaking suspicion, is the 99 going to close the door? All right, I definitely thought that was Cannizzaro's chance for second position, but he is slinging that thing on the high lane. Will the 99 once again get up there? Yeah, it seems like that high lane certainly has lost pace, Peter, as this race has gone on, because we saw the 5 do so well early on, and now we're seeing that 99 get in his groove as Dave Harvey almost hits the inside wall right there. A big moment for that 00. But back out front on that 5, it just seems like not quite the pace. Ben Izinga dead sideways racing Mitchell Adams. I just think that bottom lane seems to be, if you can be consistent and precise and patient, it seems like that bottom lane has the pace right now.
Yeah, it does, but I think Philip Scott is his own worst enemy right now, because I think he just showed, hey, Cannizzaro, there's a little bit of grip down there, and Cannizzaro is absolutely digging down there in the dirt on the bottom side of the racetrack, trying to pick up that spot from the 99, but Drew, they say here that catching him is one thing, passing is another. We've seen that here tonight at Bristol. But look at Cannizzaro. He's definitely finding that grip down there on the bottom that the 99 at Philip Scott had just a little while ago. He sends it off into turn number 3. Is he going to make that pass stick? It sure looks like it, and indeed he has. Moved Cannizzaro back up into second. The hunt is on up at the front here at Bristol, although Philip Scott gets back to the inside here, Drew. He's not backing down in the number 99 National Ninja League machine.
Yeah, Cannizzaro with a big slip up allows Philip Scott to get back up there and give him a fight. And what Cannizzaro doesn't want is to be losing time to that number 8 truck, which is what he's doing now, though a really good entry into 1 and 2. But it just seems like that high lane really suffering center off, which is kind of unusual for the high lane. Typically, the strength of the high lane is center off, at least on pavement. I can't honestly speak too much to dirt, but it certainly seems like that bottom, if you hit it right, it's the way to go. Now the 5 clears the 99, tries to take that thing back to the bottom. But Peter, we're closing in on the end of this race, and just about 20 laps to go here. And Cannizzaro really has to be consistent. No more mistakes if he wants to have a chance to get to that 8 truck.
Yeah, we will have to keep an eye on this time delta between Himmelman and Cannizzaro. 19 laps to go. Last time by, only a fraction of a second between the number 8 and the number 5 machine. But you can see Cannizzaro is sawing at the wheel, Drew. Let's go on board with that number 5 machine. Whips it off into the corner. You could see him, that wheel completely sideways. Him continuing to work the wheel. Gets out of the corner. And last time by, you could see about a 1/10 and a half faster was the number 5 machine than Andrew Himmelman. Himmelman has to watch out for this next car behind him for sure here, because he's going to be coming. He was fastest in qualifying. He was lightning quick to start off the race. Had that contact under caution that dropped him well back in the field. He's worked his way back up here and will be no doubt battling for the race win before this is all said and done. But can Philip Scott stick with the number 5 machine so that when they start to get racy, maybe Philip Scott can start to dice it up, as you see the number 8 machine putting Jordan Schepler in the number 13, another lap down. Schepler running about 5 laps down as of right now here at the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and not a great lap there. The lap beforehand from Drew Himmelman lost 3/10, and now it's down under a second, 8.5 tenths separate Cannizzaro and Himmelman. And I would not at all be surprised to see that 5 use that front bumper on the 8 truck to get out front here with just 14 to go this time by. Not a lot of time left. 1.6 seconds is, the 5 really slipped up right there through 1 and 2. That's going to give quite a few tenths back to that number 8 truck, and the number 5's entry was a little compromised, a little sideways there through 3 and 4. Interesting to see. Normally, I kind of take the Sebastian Loeb approach, right, where you minimize how sideways you are because you're essentially wasting energy. That's momentum that you could be used to propel you forward. But it really seems like the guy that's most yawed out tonight has been Cannizzaro, and he has certainly been able to make that work. As we're going through the field now, that is the 23 of Travis White in 7th, 8th, 9th, 8th. I swear I can talk, I promise, folks. 8th, 9th, and 10th right here. Ben Izenga, Ben Izenga, Stan Hausman, and Jason Freeman all running right there with each other. Some significant contact with Izenga and Hausman get together a little bit, and that's certainly not something the 8 would like to see as a caution, as the lead has kind of stabilized at about 0.8 of a second the last few laps, and 10 to go, Pete. 0.8 is quite a margin here at Bristol.
Yeah, but we've seen Cannizzaro just absolutely lay down some blistering lap times as well. So we will keep an eye on that up at the front of the field. In fact, it's ballooned up to about a second. The number 8 machine of Himmelman finding a little bit of pace here late in the run. We'll see what it's like here at the line this time. We'll have to bring up the graphic again. And Drew, you kind of mentioned it, that it seems like it has kind of stabilized at the front of the field. We'll just have to wait and see. Can the number 5 run him down? Will we have a caution flag? And if we see a caution flag, the big question is whether or not we're going to see an overtime brought to you by Beer Street Journal. Beer Street Journal, last call. Of course, they jumped on board very recently. In fact, there's a link in the description, folks, for Beer Street Journal just added here tonight. http beerstreetjournal.com. Of course, there's a double slash after the HTTP, but beerstreetjournal.com, tonight's last call overtime sponsor. But as you can see from that graphic, last time by, Cannizzaro lost a ton of time, Drew.
Yeah, he's trying to make that high lane work, and there's just no grip up there. One thing, and I don't think it's going to come into play, I think it would take a fairly large miracle or mistake by that 8 truck, quite frankly, to get that 5 involved up there. But I was just wondering, with the wall riding potential here, what would happen if a driver just used it just enough to make sure he got the win or the race lead or something? I wonder how race admins would go about that. It would be very hard to officiate that if a driver hasn't had a previous warning about it. That would certainly be interesting as the number 28 truck. This is Jamar Dumas running in 9th position, so this is the battle for 8th between he and Stan Hausman. But, Peter, I mean, suddenly Cannizzaro starting to close a bit down, back under a second from 1.3, a couple laps to go. Suddenly Cannizzaro's kind of refining his pace here with just 4 to go.
But Drew Himmelman holding on for right now. Coming out of turn number 4, we'll have 3 laps to go here at Bristol in the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby main here at the last great Coliseum. The world's fastest half mile, on dirt for sure. I know the sprint cars were whipping their way around this racetrack, but all's looking good right now for Andrew Himmelman to pick up a win here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. I'm sure he would love to get the win here, Drew. His stepdad is not out there on the racetrack. Was that car around? I think it was. We will go back live, but I think it was. Whoa! This is back live. And the 8 is getting into it with some lap traffic, and here's Cannizzaro. Cannizzaro's here, Drew, and the lap traffic not doing any favors for the number 8 machine.
Yeah, some pretty disrespectful driving, I would say, from the lap traffic here, as here comes Cannizzaro to the bottom, way too far down the bottom, but can the 8 get the run off? He will. I think Himmelman wins here at Dirt Bristol. What a finish, kind of out of nowhere. That 5 closed in on Drew Himmelman late, but he's able to do what he needs to do to bring home that victory. Just under, or just over half a tenth separates those two drivers. What a race to the line.
Yeah, let's go back and let's see if we can see what all went down there, because the lead evaporated very, very quickly for the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman. Let's go on board. Ben Izenga going around in the 07 machine. I think Himmelman had to check up because of that, as 20 of Jason Freeman, he went down there as well, and Freeman came back up the racetrack, and there was contact, and that's what allowed the number 5 of Cannizzaro to make this finish an interesting one here on 3Y TV.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of, and I'm not blaming the 07 truck, but just when the 20's coming back up onto the track. I mean, if I was Drew Himmelman and I lost that race, I would be fuming with that, because that's just not how you rejoin the race there at the end. But look at this finish. I thought the 8 was going to really struggle to get the power down, as we've seen on the high lane all night long, but he does just enough to get, I mean, the length of the cab and hood in front of Cannizzaro. What a finish at Bristol Dirt. Peter, after that first huge wreck, I certainly wouldn't have predicted this to happen on the last lap.
No, that is for sure. I mean, we took out a bunch of cars in the first 5 laps here, unfortunately, for a lot of the field, but that was a stellar finish here, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of happy people in the chat here tonight. Ben Adams saying, great job, Drew and John. Tina Himmelman saying, way to go, Drew. Stay Tuned Sports saying, good job, Andrew. RC Plains 59, what a finish. That was definitely a wild one. We'll see the number 8 machine do some burnouts here on the front stretch as the 99 clobbers the 38. There was a lot of clobbering going on here tonight at Bristol Dirt, but great to see the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman going to victory lane here on the channel. Let's see if we can figure out some of these post-race interviews for you you folks back at home, definitely going to be some happy drivers and maybe some unhappy drivers out there on the racetrack, but none will be happier than Andrew Himmelman. Drew, as the number 8 here continues to do burnouts here on the replay, why don't we see if we can get the first interview out of the way. Drew, why don't we let you interview driver of the number 99 machine, Philip Scott?
Absolutely. Philip Scott, Drew Eisman up here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Philip, I mean, you had a lot of pace here tonight, right? Like a ton of pace. You had some shots at the race lead, and just give us an overall breakdown of how your race went down.
Yeah, so I kind of surprised myself. So first off, in practice, I was like, I'm like gaining on, like, obviously practice times are kind of hard to determine who's going to be fast, who's not, because of how fast the track changes. But I was just like, I noticed that I was really good at just running the bottom, just like everyone did in the real life Bristol dirt race. And I really got a feel for it. And I noticed I was able to like get like close in on people pretty easily. Well, not easily, but like close in on them not too badly, not as bad as I thought. I'm not really a dirt guy, but I am a race hard and slide around corners kind of guy. So I got used to it pretty good. I like to not worry about tire wear and just wheel the car. So yeah, I kind of surprised myself in the heat getting second. John was checked out, but I surprised myself getting second in that, and then I wasn't expecting to get top 3 in the race really. I made a funny call. I wasn't sure if pit road was open or not. I wasn't noticing like after the stage break, and I saw John go into the pits. I'm like, uh-oh. I was like, I made my bed. Now I gotta lie in it, so I just stayed out, didn't pit at all, and it was going to be close. I was going to probably maybe run out of fuel with a couple less to go or stuff if it wasn't for the caution. I was really saving fuel. Like, to rotate the car around here, you got to really like sometimes you got to like really hammer on the throttle, but like I had to figure out the best way to get around while saving fuel. So it was kind of weird doing a fuel saving dirt race, but I felt pretty good. So when I stayed out, I knew Andrew was getting to me. I was trying to save fuel and he was right behind me. I tried to block him. I should have known better because he was like right up in my mirror and I just 360'd around, but thankfully it's not a big deal. I lost maybe 1 second and I just kept it rolling. I got ping-ponged around it a little bit, but and my steering was a little goofy, but that doesn't matter on dirt. Your wheels upside down half the time anyway. So yeah, I'm very happy. This is my first top 5 ever in the truck series, and after all the bad luck I've had in this series and TNR, I'm really happy to have a good finish at such a difficult track.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly saw that difficulty on display tonight. You mentioned the heat races, and we were kind of talking about how much pressure there was back when we thought there was only one guy transferring into the feature race. What was your mindset going into those heats? I mean, you performed really well, but did you feel a little bit more pressure knowing that if you didn't get that top 10, it would make this a lot more challenging to try to get in that feature?
Oh yeah, but I figured with my starting spot in the feature or in the heat race that I had a pretty good shot at just keeping my track position. And so that's what I did. Yeah.
And next week, the Roval looms. You excelled here at Dirt, something we don't do a lot of. At NSRA, we're doing something else we don't do a lot of next week. What are your thoughts going into that road course race?
Yeah, so I pretty much do 90% of the stuff I do on iRacing now is road. I've really grown to love it. Me and Peter are in another league. He usually whoops me in that, but sometimes I can do all right. But usually, but I'm the points leader in that league's GTE series, and I really have grown accustomed to those cars, and I've had some pretty decent runs in stock cars on road courses. I couldn't. Also on 3YTV TNR at the Glen a couple weeks ago. I just screwed up my strategy. Thought I would have more fuel than I actually did. So I just need to remember for the Roval race next week that I will have to. Oh wait, I can't race next week. I just realized. Unfortunately, but I do love road courses, and I'll be out of town, but I'll be watching for sure. I love road courses.
Well, I mean, that's unfortunate that you can't make it, but you're certainly not the first to get whipped by Peter Short. I can first-handedly attest to that, having had that happen to me tons of times. But congratulations on your first top 5, and that being a podium at that. But before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I was couldn't be here next week. I just realized. So I will be in New Jersey. For so us at the National Ninja League, we've been hard at work for a long time for this outdoor obstacle course event. It's going to be head to head, like not a speed course or anything. It's going to be brutal. Every obstacle's like connected. It's going to be for the best of the best, but everybody can come and try it. We're going to modify for younger age groups, but yeah, it's called Gauntlet Pro Obstacle Challenge. We're going to go on to nationalninja.com and check it out. It's going to be it's going to be the biggest head-to-head obstacle course event ever in America, at least.
Well, that's awesome, Philip, that whole thing that you have organized and going for you. And thanks for talking with us tonight, and congratulations on your third place finish.
Oh, yeah. Glad to be back here in the booth.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our second place interview here tonight. Driver of the number 99 machine, Philip Scott. Let's see if we can bring up driver of the driver of the number 5 machine here tonight, John Cannizzaro. John Cannizzaro, Peter Short, 3YTV booth. You get a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, you caught Andrew Himmelman right there at the end of the race, maybe a little bit too late, but some mid-race issues put you further back in the pack than you probably wanted to, but a mighty charge up through the pack. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened during that stage break. It started with a black flag, then whatever happened with Brian, I'll talk about that with him later. Obviously, he's usually an understanding guy, but I mean, it was only 12th. I wasn't going to complain about it, and then it's sort of just all, you're angry, you want to get to the front as fast as you can at that point. I've heard of a bunch of times you can't outrun an angry race car driver, so I'm just going to use that as my excuse of why I got to the front so fast.
Well, you definitely was a hard charger there in that portion of the race, but right there at the end, a little bit of misfortune for Andrew Himmelman, got him right in front of you. We've seen you lay a bumper to certain drivers in the past. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Drew Eisenman alongside me. Why didn't you give the bumper to the number 8 machine here tonight?
I'm here for one race. It's just a one-off, and he's racing for the chase. He wants to lock himself in. There's no reason ruining his season just for a guy substituting for one race to wreck it on him. There's no point of it.
Well, definitely could have made for a little bit more interesting finish up here in the booth, that's for sure. But a great race for you here tonight. Any opportunities for you to maybe make a second off appearance later in the season?
Yeah, actually in the interview room, me and Ben are talking. Apparently now, I guess we can say I'm now the substitute driver for SimShot Racing. And we've announced that, so every time they were missing, I'll pop in eventually, depending on whatever that is. But yeah, maybe a part-time ride next season. We'll have to see.
All right. Well, John, before we let you go, any shout-outs?
Yeah, Ben Adams a lot. Obviously, DMing me about last night, maybe at 5 o'clock, asking me if I could run for him. So thank for him for getting the opportunity to almost win it. Buttkicker, GTR simulators, use code GTR for a discount. SimShop, obviously, and Stay Tuned Sports.
All right. Well, folks, that's going to do it with our second place interview here tonight. John Cannizzaro filling in for Ben Adams here tonight and coming home in second. Congratulations. All right. Well, let's see if we can go down and pick up tonight's race winner. Drew Eisenman's caught up with another Drew Himmelman. Drew.
Drew Eisman up here in the 3-Wide TV booth. Fellow Drew, do you have a copy?
Yeah, I got you, man.
Well, I mean, I think it's been a long time coming for you. At least since I've been broadcasting, I don't believe you've gotten a Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series victory. So congratulations on the first, if I'm correct in believing it's your first. Tell us how it happened.
Well, unfortunately, John kind of got hit on that caution, but I mean, as soon as that happened and we got past Phillip, which, I mean, yeah, it was contact, but I don't know. We talked about it, but as soon as we got past him, we just kind of set sail, and then that caution came out. But there wasn't much. I mean, something just happened, and it clicked, and we just got pretty fast pretty quickly. And I mean, John gave us a run for our money right there, right at the end. So we got to thank him for racing us clean. I know I probably didn't race him as clean as he did me, but it's just such a reliever to be locked in. You can try about anything now, and you don't have to be worried about points. You're locked into the playoff.
Yeah, and you certainly maximized your opportunity tonight. You had a really big lead after or before that final caution, which kind of reset that number 5's distance between you and him after you built up that huge buffer. What was going through your mind at that point?
I was just telling my team members this. I was rooting for John because he was subbing in for one of our team members. But at the same time, I was like, oh, man, that 5's coming quick because he was faster than me most of the race. So I wanted him to be up there, but not at the same time because I knew he was probably going to get past me. But luckily, we were able to hold it to the end there.
And in those last 5 or so laps, maybe less than that, the lap traffic really came into play. How did all that unfold for you that led to this photo finish?
The lap traffic did kind of shake it up. I don't think it would have been that close if it went for the lap traffic, but that's what happens in racing. But, we just tried to maneuver the best we could. A lot of the lap traffic moved high for me, in which I asked. So big thanks to them. But when it comes down to that, you just got to hold on because that's all I did. I think we made contact with one of the lap cars. So I think we held on to it, but it made for a really good photo finish with me and John.
Yeah, it certainly did. We didn't expect that after that huge wreck at the beginning, but you did what needed to be done. Next week, another unique challenge, the Roval. What are your thoughts going into that?
We're not terrible on road courses, but as I said earlier, we're locked in now, so we don't really have to worry too much about points, this and that, stage points, and all of that. We don't really have to worry about it, being that we're already locked into the chase and we're good. So it's not necessarily a huge worry for me. If we're doing good there, we're doing good there. If we're not, we're not. It just is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see what exactly it will be in just about a week's time. Well, Drew, the drill. Give us those shout outs.
Got to thank the sponsors for the SimShots Racing Team, GTR Simulator. You can use GTR Sim for 10% off your order. Buttkicker. I'd like to thank my family for watching, especially my mom and my grandfather. He watches every single race. So, and you can always go like SimShots on Facebook. And thanks to you guys for broadcasting.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for talking with us, Drew. And again, congratulations on your victory tonight.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, well, folks, that's going to do it here for our post-race interviews here on 3-Wide TV. We'll see if we can bring up tonight's final race results of the feature here in the Calamity and Coffee Dirt Derby Main. Andrew Himmelman taking home the win. Gian Cannizzaro second, just 53 thousandths of a second here, Drew. I mean, that is absolutely nuts to have a race that close here on dirt at Bristol. Philip Scott finishing in third, about 4 seconds behind your race leader. Doug Neal finishing about 7 seconds back behind Philip Scott. Mitchell Adams in fifth. Travis White, Stan Hausman rounding out your top 7. Great night for Stan Hausman in his number 39 machine. Of course, the Hausman family racing number 39 machine with, of course, the Tropical Smoothie machine out there here tonight. Jamar Dumas finishing in 8th. Jason Freeman in 9th. Matt Cherry rounding out your top 10, Drew.
Ben Izinga in that number 07. I swear I can speak He brings home 11th position. Dave Harvey brings home 12th. Colin Ullery in 13th. And now, folks, we're getting into the trucks that were involved in that huge wreck early on and took some significant damage. Brian Bradley in 14th. Christopher Darling in 15th. Jordan Shepler, 16 laps down, finishes 16th. Nathan Maurer, 17th. Doug Milliner in 18th position. And then we have Justin White and Jeff Price, 19th and 20th. 21st is James Lorello. Not the night that he had wanted after doing whatever he needed to do to get in from the heat part of the race. Monty Glover in 22nd. TJ Buck, JT Poole, and Robert Dudley round out your field in that huge wreck that we saw on lap 1. But Peter, what a race.
Yeah, absolutely. It was quite a race here tonight. Was hoping to see if we could go back and get a look at that accident there at the beginning of the race. Unfortunately, unable to do so, but it was a big one, taking out, I think you said there was probably 17 or so trucks involved in that incident on lap number 2, which kind of set the stage for a smaller field here tonight. But all in all, some fantastic racing, both in the heat races, the consolation race, and of course, eventually in the main. Been a fun one. Can't wait to come back here to the dirt here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Make sure you check them out. Link in the description to listen to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But like you said, Drew, we're going to the Roval next week, twisting left and right. That's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite stock car road course. I don't know if that's blasphemy or not with other road courses that are out there. I just think it's they kind of designed that for stock cars, and they hit it out of the park. Some great off-camber corners, some great banked corners. The chicanes are a lot of fun and a big challenge. And I'm expecting a lot of contact, but not as many cautions or multi-car wrecks, I don't think, that we saw here tonight, though. Who knows?
Definitely going to be a fun one. Same time, same place, right here, 9 o'clock Eastern on May 21st, right here on 3Y TV. Thanks for everyone joining us here tonight, as well as Calamity and Coffee for sponsoring the Dirt Derby this season. Big shout out to all of the sponsors, Buttkicker, Brookstone Animal Hospital, of course, Craig Set Up Shop for sponsoring the Pole Award, as well as Sim Shots and Bet Angles for providing all the good angles on all the bets that you do in the sporting world. And of course, big shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles that we brought you here tonight from Bristol. Definitely were absolutely awesome. And thanks to everyone else in the chat for joining us here tonight. Make sure you leave a like, and why don't you hit that subscribe button up there at the top of the screen, as well as the notification bell, so you can join us on our other 3Y TV broadcasts during the week. We'd love to have you here. Jump in the chat. We see you guys every once in a while jump in here. The Bearded Kilt Racing in the chat was very interesting. Some post-race comments. I'm sure there will be a lot of post-race comments amongst the drivers here tonight. There was a lot of contact, but definitely going to be a fun one next week here on 3Y TV. Before we go, one last thing to do. That's biggest mover of the race, Drew. We haven't given it away yet. Is that what you're about to say?
I was about to remind you that, my friend.
Well, there you have it. The biggest mover of the race, Drew. Jamar Dumas.
Jamar Dumas. Yeah, absolutely. That 28 truck.
Yeah, we can't forget that. I was almost about to forget it. I do apologize to Taz Racing Customs. But if you want a custom diecast, make sure you go check them out. They can do your iRacing truck, car, or real-life diecast as well, Drew. Anything I'm forgetting? I'm just gonna let me know if I'm forgetting something else.
Nothing to my knowledge.
All right, so I think we'll wrap it up there, folks. We'll see you next week. Have a good night. Stay safe, and we shall see ya.